Lisa, and thank you, Caitlin, obviously for the intro. As I said at the start, it's very nice to see some very familiar faces. Some people on this call have more to answer for unleashing my passion for sustainability than others. I won't name names, but it is great then obviously to meet some new faces as well, and obviously for the opportunity to share what we've built with Utilitarian, what our vision is. It is a big vision, and it's my risk is that I'd get too far into the weeds with it, so I'll try and keep it as high level as possible, and leave as much time as possible for discussion. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen. What I'm hoping to do is get through the slides in no more than 10 to 15 minutes at most. I have the opportunity to do a quick demo of the platform and what it looks like, and then leave as much time as possible for questions and answers. I appreciate it's everyone's lunchtime, so I don't want to abuse that privilege. So thank you again. I'm from Dharawal land here in south of Sydney and Bundeena, so that's where I'm from. So I just will need to just double check that. Can everybody see that screen? All right, so I'm just bear with me as I minimize my screen and I know what I'm doing. All right, so bear with me. I'm going to fly through this as quickly as I can, and then, as I said, leave as much time as possible for discussion. So Utilitarian is our company. It's our organization, but it's also the name of our platform. And what I'm going to do in the next few slides is explain the problem that we're seeking to solve and how we're hoping to solve it. But what I will preface is that what we have built is a platform, and on that platform, we are hoping to build a network. And it's the power and that collaboration of that network, which is what will solve the problem. It's not the utilitarian platform itself, it's the way that we can hopefully, bring people together and provide a unique capability that, in my view, doesn't exist at the moment. So I'll just make sure, here we go. Okay, so I don't think I need to spend too much time explaining to everybody what the circular economy is on this call, thank you. But very specifically, what part of that are we focusing on with utilitarian? So that part is consumer goods, and recognizing that for the most part, people at home do want to do the right thing. Yes, they need to make it easier. We need to make it more rewarding. There's a whole host of behavior change aspects that we need to promote, encourage, and solve for. But ultimately, and I think the comment was made at the start, brands specifically have a very important role to play, not just from a product design perspective, but in terms of how they can help their customers adapt and change their behaviors. How can they implement and scale solutions specifically to minimizing the impact and maintaining the value of their products at the highest possible value? And how do we do that at scale? So we know that there are a lot of emerging solutions, take back programs, resale platforms coming to us quite quickly, but increasingly that's becoming more and more overwhelming and confusing for the average person at home. So how can we simplify that? And at the same time, how can we solve for specific needs that the brands need to help them accelerate the internal changes that they need to make to adapt and overcome business model, inertia, where there's immediate term commercial outcomes that they're trying to still solve for and deliver on, at the same time investing in often holistic business model change. That is what utilitarians seeking to solve. So just a very small problem that we're hoping to solve for in one fell swoop. So clearly, that's why the network effect is so critical, and why collaboration is at the heart of what we're doing. So a lot of you will be familiar with the circular economy 7 R's. So we know what they are, and every so often we get a new R, but we're really focusing on how do people change their behavior. So rethinking and refusing, and then once they own something, which is where utilitarian comes in, it's about understanding how they can adapt their behavior with consumer goods that they've already purchased, that they have in their home, not just going forward, but thinking about the things that they already have as well. Where utilitarian looks at this is we look at a few other R's to add to that list. And what we recognize is that for the circular economy to flourish, we really need to support and encourage the development of relationships. And that's not just between brands and their customers, but obviously, and we know on this call, a lot of charities, non-government organisations, government as well, are scaling solutions to help people at home and businesses recover products. How can we re-engage those customers after they've purchased something, or ideally remain engaged with them? How can we retain those items, and how can we repurchase those items? And that's from a brand's perspective. How can they bring products back? And we know that the sharing economy, subscription, and product as a service are some examples of what solutions or models that need to be scaled. How can we do that in a way that helps them report impact and report the fate of products over time? We know that obligations are increasing. We all know the role of repair, reuse, and recycle, and the value chain and the hierarchy that we need to encourage and promote and educate around. How can we ensure that brands are realizing a return on investment? And that's not just about the sale of products, but the way that they engage with the market, and particularly their marketing spend. We know that for most part, most brands don't have a shortage of marketing budget. How can we encourage them to deploy that marketing budget in a way that adapts their customers' behavior, but again, meeting their immediate commercial requirements? How do we reward customers for changing those behaviors? And then how do we encourage the broader ecosystem to engage with that customer? So that person at home with the product, it's the right time and the right place. And that's a pretty simple formula that a lot of people work towards before. But I've got some examples where I'll talk about, at a circular economy level, how can we ensure those materials stay at the highest possible value when for the most part, a lot of things are sitting in cupboards idly? How can we get our hands on those products as an ecosystem and retain those products or materials and ensure that they don't just sit wasted in a cupboard or in a garage, but we get them back into circulation as early in their life cycle as possible to retain their value? That's the nature of the platform and how we're hoping to facilitate the interaction and network of different stakeholders. So just to break that down, we want to make it as easy as possible for consumers to interact with this shifting, ecosystem, which is a circular economy. They're used to buying things, keeping things, and just doing something with them. The role that they play in a circular economy is dramatically shifting, where essentially they're a custodian of a product for a period of time before they really need to relinquish that and give it back to the right stakeholder. How can we make that as convenient as possible? We know that for the most part, consumers aren't going to do this to save the planet. It needs to form a normal part of the way that they own a product. And then how can we, as a platform, use the centralization of data to help a range of stakeholders interact with people and products across a broad perspective? The platform itself is a software as a service platform product. And for the most part, we're looking to create the greatest amount of value for brands as a digital marketing channel. So they seek to engage their customers via email and different social media channels. How can we build a platform where a person purchases a product, they register the product on the platform, and they remain engaged with that brand or that retailer over a period of time, that life cycle of that product, in the spirit of circular economy, but ensure that that brand themselves can engage meaningfully with that customer, and from their perspective, increase their share of customer spend. Ultimately, that's what's going to drive a change of behavior on both parties, from both parties' perspective. So this is where we are at, and just to touch on a few functionalities. So we are at pilots now, and we're moving to larger scale pilots. We just launched with Revolve Recycling this morning. If you're not familiar with them, we can talk about them in a bit more detail later, but they're looking to use the platform to help them recover and engage their community, recover bikes, but then how that adds a data layer, which is valuable for their stakeholders, such as councils, some of the brands that may seek to partner with them, as well as government, such as EPA and so forth, who are working closely with them and helping them keep bikes out of landfill. The second stage is to build an audience and engage an audience on this platform in a more meaningful way than, for example, over social media. And one of the tools that we've built for that is the ability to deploy surveys as a way of understanding what customers' needs are, what are their constraints, so that if a brand isn't ready to deploy a take-back program today, they can still use the platform to build a business case internally to understand what their customers' expectations are, and to use that as an evidence base to get the requisite investment to perhaps go down the path of a take-back pilot and so forth, and take that first step on their journey. You can see there is a few examples where we have some basic functionalities for drop-off programs, which is sort of that second stage where we're using the digital twins of products and tracking their process around take-back programs. So you could identify, say, a post office as a suitable location. It could be a pickup from the door-to-door. These are things that we can build into the back of the platform for our partners. And then finally, we've got a little reminder for people. If they've got that little bowl of batteries next to the door and they want to take it back to a B-cycle drop-off, we can, in the app, ask them to set a reminder for 8 o'clock in the morning to make sure they don't forget to put it in the car as they walk out the door. And then the final piece there you can see is the rewards as well. So I will go into the digital twins a bit with a demo just to explain what that is and how it works, both proactively from a brand's perspective, but also retrospectively in the case of people cataloging things at their home for the purpose of donation to charities and so forth. So they're just the pilots that we've had, and you can see there the pictures of the bikes. So we quite quickly, in the space of a couple of weeks, engaged with our local community here and recovered 74 bikes. They went to Revolve Recycling, but we learned a really valuable lesson at that point, is that people have bikes sitting around their home in all sorts of condition. And they just all, for those that were really rusted, the people all said the same thing. If only I'd known there was a way to get rid of my bike instead of just letting it sit down the side of the house rusting away. So we know that people want to do the right thing. We just need to try and basically hit them between the eyeballs with solutions and motivate them and reward them to proactively engage with initiatives that exist. And we know those initiatives exist around the mobile phones, laptops. We know a lot of social enterprises are looking to recover and repair electronic items. We heard some examples before, and give them to those from a social enterprise perspective. So the solutions exist, just how do we make them more accessible? And then finally, the remote op shop recently, they, if you're not aware, identified donations of clothing through Facebook. We've got over 20,000 people on Facebook who fairly routinely put items in an Australia Post satchel and send them through communities. What we're able to do now is avoid unnecessary waste, because the op shop communities on the platform identify the things that they need, no different to the status quo. But prior to a person donating the item, they catalogue it and transfer it to the community. And only when the community says yes on the app will that person put it in the Australia Post satchel and send it. So one, we avoid unnecessary waste, but two, each time an item is transferred, we're capturing really critical data, because between that and other programs like Mobile Muster, for the most part, these programs today are anonymous. Brands have very little visibility as to the movement of their products. And from their perspective, their ability to scale and design new systems where they can be more directly involved in the recovery of products is limited, because they can't really demonstrate that commercial ROI that they really need to scale their investment. So this is the purpose of the platform, is not just recovering products, not just making participation easier, but by collecting that critical data point, especially with the brand's perspective, we can bring them closer to the solution and enable them to participate, achieving both a philanthropic and social and circular outcome, but an immediate commercial and marketing ROI outcome at the same time. And we feel that's critical to ensuring that the brands play their role in scaling a circular economy and adapting their business models. So this is where we're at. These are the different partners that we're working with. So Revolve Recycling this morning. Remote op shop, we will kick off those next few communities next week. We will go live with North Face soon, which is extremely exciting. A really credible brand, global and highly recognized, but importantly, a very passionate and core following and community from a customer base as well. So we're really excited the opportunity to support them on their journey towards a more circular business model and go to market. And then finally, we are associate members of the Australian Betting Stewardship Council. And so we're looking to work with them to understand how we can not just help them as a product stewardship organisation, but their participating brand members, as well as their recyclers, for example, Soft Landing, where we can use the modelling that I showed with, say, Remote Op Shop and Revolve Recycling by capturing digital equivalents of the mattresses. But then how can those brands then support those customers as part of that take back program and invest more readily in those solutions? So this is our team. So this is me. I didn't introduce myself, but background, I was at Veolia for the best part of 5 years. And yes, I did my MBA at UTS a few years ago, where someone triggered this little passionate sustainability person inside of me. And that's really, it's been over the last 10 years where I've been really wrapping my head around circular economy and how we're going to bring everybody forward and scaling it, which is, I guess, landed me where I am today. So we do have a new board member. I can't tell you exactly who they are now, but it's extremely exciting. And hopefully be able to share that in the very near future, but it's someone who everybody will be familiar with. So this is where we're at. So I'll probably leave it there. I can do a demo, which if everyone is happy to do, I can dive into that. I'll look at Caitlin and see if you think a demo, or do any questions before I do a demo. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe just initially we're going to ask questions to make sure everyone's clear before you get into the nuts and bolts of it. If people want to raise your hand so that Tim can keep the screen up and jump between if anyone has questions. Well, sign of a good presentation, Tim. No questions. Obviously, you're very thorough.
Perhaps the opposite. I've gone as quickly as I can because I could talk all day about this, and that's the challenge. It's a very, very big idea. As a platform, the most basic building blocks are all ready to go. I mean, I can speak to things like, and I think it's an incredible thing now, is that from a pilot perspective, we deliberately spent a lot of time and money from a data privacy, and that's a huge aspect of something that we need to call out and recognize in this day and age, is people's privacy is a critical thing. So we've accounted for that. So whilst we're a startup, there's certain aspects of what we've built in the platform which are critical for us to scale quickly. And that's equally important from a partnership and a pilot perspective, not wanting to do things too small. So that's something that's all been developed, and one of the things that sort of delayed us doing things at a bigger scale more early. See one hand up, Janet.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, and it looks really wonderful. So congrats. I was wondering about metrics, because we were having we were having a discussion about what metrics would be useful for circular business models to sort of communicate or track how circular they are, especially if you want to show, your sort of circular or your climate advantage compared to alternatives to your product. I was wondering if you could comment on that. I've got plenty more questions, but I'll leave it at that one.
No, very happy to talk to that. So I think there's a few different perspectives. We're looking at this from, obviously there's products out, diversion from landfill would be the obvious one, right? How many things have been product, and the fate of products. The idea that we could sell a TV, and you can see there on the screen, a Samsung TV gets sold to you, you register it as part of a normal process, it sits on the platform, and then you may sell it to somebody else, have it repaired. All of those different touch points would be tracked through the platform. And then ideally, if Samsung or someone else has a nominated e-waste recycler, it would be transferred as a digital asset to them. And so we'd be able to demonstrate the life cycle of a product over time. So that's fate of product, and diversion from landfill would be one outcome as a result of that. Now, how then we then look at broader impacts is from a thorough life cycle analysis, which is not what Utilitarian is claiming to do. Then we can report on that from an impact perspective. As a platform, how we would report our impact, which might go to the heart of what you're looking at, is we can obviously track the fate of products over time. So that's a bit of a no-brainer. What we're looking to do is the reward aspect is to do that in a twofold perspective. So, for example, brands could use their own existing rewards system on the platform. So you can see on the right of the screen an action, which might be, if we use that TV as an example, you might get 10 points. And if Samsung uses, say, Qantas frequent flyer points or their own points system, you would earn that for transferring that digital asset to a verified partner, as you would earn points. In addition to that, and in parallel to that, we will design and develop what we're calling utilitarian status points. Now, at the very, very base level, that would be 1 point for any particular action. However, our ambition, and this is where we have to work with partners to verify this more concretely, is that, for example, if we had a life cycle analysis that demonstrated that particular action with that TV was, say, avoiding appropriately, and as I said, verified, I want to make that really clear, 50 kilograms of CO2, just picking a number out of the air. What would we do in the platform instead of doing 1 point, we'd assign 50 status points as a clear benchmark. And it would be up to the brands and their relevant partners to work with us to verify and demonstrate evidence. And then we would be in a position where we can assign certain actions to certain status points. And by doing that, and perhaps there's other metrics as well from a boundaries perspective that people want to measure, but at that simple example, allows us to demonstrate scale and impact over time.
Great. I was just wondering if you have a specific list of products that are on your platform, could we take a look and maybe suggest some, whether we have data on the carbon footprint or material footprint or otherwise that's been avoided by recirculating that product? We'd be happy to talk further on that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, so at the moment, and I can see some other hands up, so I'll talk about the products very quickly. So the idea is the products can go in two ways. So ideally, a brand registers their product on the platform as a partner of ours. That product can be registered at the point of purchase and then tracked over time, and they can put the relevant qualifications and verifications around that product to whatever high-level degree of information or as little as possible. The point is that they then have visibility and knowledge of where that product is and who has it in real time, recognizing people's privacy and so forth. Alternatively, if there's a donation drive today, and I gave the remote op shop as an example, I can take a t-shirt, take a photo, name the brand, and upload it onto the product and transfer it to that community. In that case, the brand has no involvement in that whatsoever. But because we're identifying specific data points, specifically the brand, over time, we'll be able to go back to, say, Nike and say, you had 35 t-shirts as part of that donation drive. And perhaps at that point, they can start to look at reporting. But it's about doing both things in parallel because this platform is very much chicken and egg. The brands aren't going to come on board until the audience is on. The audience isn't going to come on until the rewards are on. So that's where we're working to try and move on two things, and opportunities to collaborate, such as today, is what's going to help us get from A to B and build that critical mass of a network. So I think Hayley and David as well. I don't know who was first.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for the presentation. Looks fantastic. It's evolved even more since we last caught up. So you've already answered my first question, which is around the registration onboarding process, how the products actually get onto the platform. So being either at the point of sale by the brands themselves or the donation drive. Is there also another way for customers to be able to load up their existing products so that they can go through their house and actually, so even if a brand isn't signed on yet, they can still do a bit of a stock take audit of all of the things in their household? Is that the third way?
Yeah.
Customer can register.
Yeah, you're right, Hayley. And I think it's fair to say that may not appeal to all people in society. I think there's a certain subset of people who would love the idea of cataloging everything in their home. And if I can just take the opportunity, in there, we've also added the ability to add your receipts and warranties. So if you create a product, so for example, let's say I took a nice photo of my television at home and it looked like the one on the screen. You can do that today. You can walk around your home, you can take photos of shoes, items, t-shirts, etc. And you can add other information, where did you buy it, how much did you spend, and really build up from a pure tax and accounting perspective as much detail as you wish. The other thing we can do with that, and I can show this in more detail, a bit of a demo, is people can then flag that as available for recycling. And so, for example, or available for donation. And so if we did a campaign, we could encourage people to literally identify specific things around their home, catalog them and mark them as available for donation or available for recycling. And an overarching organisation would have the ability to then use the platform and spend targeted messages, not just to all people, but on a product-to-product basis. So, for example, with Revolve, that's the idea, is we can get people to catalogue all their bikes across Sydney, and Revolve would have the ability to send a targeted message, not just to bike owners who have marked things as available for recycling, but do that on a geographically sensitive perspective, targeting by postcode or LGA.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. And one other quick question before I hand over to David, and this might be for David as well, because I'll use laptops as an example. We also have a laptop program where we take corporate laptops, where we refurbish those and give those out into the community. We recognise there's 1 in 4 in Australia that don't have digital access, so we're looking to close the digital divide. As a part of that, what's been really interesting in the process is there's a lot of really generous corporates wanting to donate their corporate laptops, but then there's also a big push, I think, from a lot of large tech companies to go straight to recycling for parts. So I do wonder how this platform can help us drive the hierarchy when it comes to circular economy and the 7 R's that you raised. I think that's a bigger, broader probably question for this group as well, that are a part of the task forces for Circular Australia around potentially policy legislation change. Like, there's probably other leverage points that need to be tackled as well. But I wonder how you prioritising that hierarchy as a part of this platform.
I think there's 2 answers to that. One, we did do a pilot at our local school where people had the opportunity to either donate a mobile phone or a laptop to the Reconnect project, or they could do it to Mobile Muster. And what I saw was people just walk up, look at a bin and just drop it in. Like, there was unfortunately a really lack of, and that's not obviously for everybody. And the more we can educate, the more we can and talk to people. And I think that's where brands need to be a part of it. They need to be directing people. I mean, if you register a laptop on the platform today, the brand would be able to send a preconceived message to say, right, in 18 months, do you want to trade it in? Bring it back to us and we'll donate it for you. You know, that's really what we should be seeing, right? And that laptop stays in your house for 10 years. It's one or the other, you know. And so I think there's an opportunity to understand and do more research on consumer behaviour, wants and needs. And I think we need to make it really easy and clear for people to understand what we're asking them to do and what the reward is and what the benefit is. I think even if we took them all in one simple donation drive in all shapes and sizes and conditions, understanding the potential paths that it could take. And Revolve Recycling is a really good example. They can take a kid's bike and that could either get perfect condition, go to a brand new kid in need, and everybody gets, you know, feeling good about themselves. They handed the bike back and it went to a kid that needs it. Alternatively, that bike could be pulled apart and for scrap and components. On the platform, we can report both. So that bike, we can report this went here and this went there. And I think the main thing is, as long as we can report and encourage people to understand what's happening and what the potential paths are, I think people will be happy. But the flip side is we want to make it as easy as possible. So, yeah, I know it's a bit of a vague answer, but I think, yeah, we need to be very targeted and be very specific with what we're asking people to do. Alternatively, we just need to then develop system-wide catch-alls and then use that to be a bit more data-driven in terms of how we segregate. Yeah, awesome. Because if I think of what's happening in the EU around mandatory reporting for reuse as well, maybe that could be incorporated as well. I'll hand over to David. Sorry, I won't take up all your time. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, hi, Tim. Good to catch up with you again. you captured the 7 important R's, but you actually missed a couple, because we need to make sure when we're focusing on circularity that we always keep in mind the restore and regenerate pieces. And then by doing that, there's a whole extra range of collaborators where you could potentially offer brands the ability to offset the impacts of the residual impacts of their products, or get consumers to share those offsetting options. Basically, so that the restore and regenerate aspects are always kind of kept in front of people's minds as an option that can be attached to reducing their impacts of their purchases. The other thing is that obviously there's going to be some data providers that can be potential collaborators around the product passport side of things, and the connecting products to offsets is a metrics issue, and ultimately there's a potential role there once sort of there's information available on the impacts of a product to be able to start attributing potential, give consumers a choice to spend their benefits or their points on themselves or on nature.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right, David. I mean, I have the fortune of walking around day to day and just thinking about purely this platform, which is a good and a bad thing. But I buy it grilled, and you put your little token bottle top, to what charity each month. It's the same with the CDS, right? You can drop off and you can donate your 10 cents to things. Absolutely. So all of those are things I definitely want to build in to the platform. That'll take the right partners and the right feedback, and obviously the right controls as well. It's something one thing I know, I had the opportunity to speak to Mel, I don't know if she's still on the call, quite some time ago, is really understanding unintended consequences and impacts of reward systems and things like that. And I'll really, the idea that, if we buy recycled, that you get a reward, well, potentially we know there's people in our community that will go and buy way too many recycled items just so they can feel good about buying recycled. And it's, the opposite of what we want. So, we're very careful about how we design this and come at it from a research and evidence perspective. I saw some other questions here from Janet. I saw something about digital product passports. Thank you for asking that. That is definitely something we are building for. I'm very familiar with digital product passports. I see a huge role for them, and that's exactly when I started building this thing, looking at what does that mean for customers in the long run, because we see the digital product passports and brands are going to want to have the engagement, but at the moment, for the most part, they're a web-based information pack that you can't catalog centrally. So what we've done is deliberately built this so you have a profile of a product, but then if the brand itself has a digital product passport that sits under that through a link, we can build that in the back end, because recognizing as well, they're going to sit across a vast range of blockchain platforms as well, not any single one. And so for the customer, they're going to have this overwhelming digital ecosystem coming down at them. We're trying to build Utilitarian so it just sits as that nice, clean interface between this digital data ecosystem and the person at home who just wants to know what to do with their TV. Yeah. Just conscious of time, I can do a quick demo or can take more questions. I'll be led by everybody.
Demo, please.
Demo? All right.
Crowd has spoken. I think
crowd has spoken. All right. So I'll bear with me. All right. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, great.
Okay, so it should be a campaign. It says page that says campaigns. All right. So what I'll do is essentially this is my page. This is my admin page, and this is what a supplier page would look like. So if an alternative organization wants to log in this case, you can see the op shop. This is what they see as a login, and this is what a brand would see as well. I've deliberately jumped in the admin page. It's just a bit easier for me to use, but this is how they can I might have been logged off, might have been too long. Or my internet's too slow. That's awkward, I know. So this is where the op shop is not a brand. So they're not going to create products, but this is essentially where this would happen. We can upload information, and what I want to do is do a more seamless API integration with different CRMs like Salesforce or Shopify to be able to bring these products across. That's a work in progress. They can create campaigns, and sorry, my internet, oh no, there we go. So basically this is a single campaign that we built for the school donation drive recently. And this is what it looks like. So this would look like a tab on the mobile phone. And this is where, you know, we need to get better with the way that we display information and keep it really tight and punchy for someone at home to understand how they engage. But this is all fully editable, if that's even a word. Once someone opts in, so at the moment, there is, I think, one participant, which is one of my aliases. But essentially, we can target a broadcast to that audience. So the idea is people sign up and follow a campaign over time, and then we can remain engaged with them by sending them in-app messages over time. So that could be a call to action. It could be a report on the impact that they've had. It could be any number of things, but it's purely just like a mini blog post that goes via the app with different imagery and so forth. It could be a reminder that, you know, the initiative or the campaign is closing soon. And then finally, while we haven't done one, we can initiate surveys from this platform as well, where you can create and measure and write the questions as you need, as you see fit. To create a campaign, I started doing a bit of a one before, but basically, if I go, if I was to create one for Circular Australia, I can do this for organisations, or they can create their own, and then away we go. But I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to, I'm just going to minimise one window. We describe what the campaign is, but more importantly, we can either make it available for everybody, or we can do this geographically. That's the first thing I wanted to let people know about. The other thing about broadcasts as well is that if we create a broadcast, we can, for example, if we did a child seat take back program, we could focus it on, to your point, question, Hayley, if people have catalogued all of the baby seats, because we're going to do a big baby seat take back program or donation program, we can target it to those people who have actually listed and categorized their products at home under this. Then we've already identified some of the brands. Now, I want to make it clear, none of these brands are our partners, but this is courtesy of the take back program we did before. And then we can also target that based on councils. So we could execute this as a campaign on behalf of a council specific initiative, or if it was the case of some of our audience, at a state level, we can do that as well. So that what that means is that the audience who are on the platform, so if we all of a sudden had 26 million Australians on the platform tomorrow, only those people in those geographies that have identified in those what council they belong to would have visibility to those campaigns. They're not getting unnecessary information. So that's the nature of the targeting. And like I said, it is a case of adding products proactively versus retrospectively. For the products themselves, just to give you an example, this is a fake one that I made. So this is a new brand called Wild Venture that if Utilitarian fails, I'm going to go and build. This is Summit Shield jacket. I haven't listed any of the lifespan footprint, but David, to your point, if there's verified information, we can list that in there. And what that means is we can identify that data in the back. One of the massive take-back programs I'd love to do would be lithium-ion batteries. Just do a campaign across a particular area, get people to identify their batteries at home, and work with B-Cycle to do one big campaign. Obviously, education around safety and the fire risk, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea would be if people all identified their lithium-ion batteries that are sitting idly on a shelf, and we did a statewide campaign to collect those, we'd immediately have understanding of where those products are right across the state, and to be able to design interventions, door-to-door collections, whatever it might be, just by virtue of the data map that would be on this platform. So that's basically it in terms of a very, very quick demo. Might stop sharing my screen. Just conscious of time as well.
Thanks, Tim.
Another hand
Harry?
up.
Thanks so much for that, Tim. This is really, truly exciting. I was wondering if you've thought through much of the behavior change for retailers as well as the behavior change for consumers, rationalizing that inherent conflict between repair and purchasing new. I think we've all had the experience with white goods, you call the authorized repairer in the manual, which of course, we could access through the Utilitarian app. And then, there are incentives built in to buy new rather than repair, apply the cost of the call out to a new product when, you could get another 5 years out of it. Is this part of a training or a necessary evolution for producers away from that model of early replacement, perhaps, that you're building?
So I see what you're calling out as a massive challenge, right? And I agree, like we need to overcome it. How the platform can work to that. Working with brands like North Face has been quite deliberate, where we have a brand that, is vertically quite integrated, have their own outlets, but for what it's worth, and there's no secret around this, North Face in Australia, 35% of their sales are direct to consumer, by their brick and mortar and by online, 65% are through retail partners. And they really have no relationship with the customers that buy through Paddy Palin and so forth. So to your point, if North Face want to initiate repair programs, they're very limited in how they can engage with those customers unless they subscribe to the emails and then successfully get through email as a channel to promote these programs, right? And that's why they're seeing the attractiveness in this, is they can see that they can heighten their D2C relationships. They can get visibility to say all those North Face jackets being sold secondhand on Facebook Marketplace, they have no visibility to that. And once they can create that relationship with those customers by giving more value, how do you repair, like those blog posts I mentioned, how do you repair your jacket? How do you look after it? Make sure you air your tent out at the end of Easter so it doesn't get moldy over winter. They're the things that they want to put through the platform, not just buy more stuff, but more value add relationship stuff. Then through that, they can build that more two-way street and promote repair. My instinct is it's only off the back of that will it force the hand of their retail partners to follow suit, because they'd start to see people going back to the North Face outlets seeking repair, or their distributed repair partners who they do have across Australia accessing the post or other means of distribution. I think the retailers some will be really quick off the mark and do it. We know winning are really quick at the moment. They're pretty proactive in terms of at least doing take back programs, but I think others would have to have their hands forced by pure market economics.
And I think the data that you capture will really assist that.
Yeah.
The loyalty developed through this kind of aftermarket and actually extending the usability of products rather than just buying a new one. The loyalty will actually pay off for them more than just selling the next one when the tent gets moldy.
Yeah. So I think these things are inevitable over time, especially as regulation comes down. But I guess what we're trying to do with Utilitarian is accelerate the process, because the data will give the visibility and transparency to force people to change more quickly. I mean, that's my big vision, recognizing that, it's going to take time and success.
I guess I got a question now. I'm just wondering, because a lot of the time, a lot of the waste that comes with the product is from the packaging. How does your platform handle that as well? Or
I've got one tick box. I think David's saying goodbye. I've got one tick box in there, which is saying I did something responsibly with packaging. I haven't solved for that. I think what I would say to you is that if a brand or retailer wanted to work with me on the platform, we could easily solve for that in the way that it either marks that the person at home handled it properly, at least from a reporting perspective. Again, there's a lot of honesty built into that, but equally they may have other partners involved where they can go around. I had a friend the other day who took a lounge, and I was talking about Utilitarian, and he said just that. He said he couldn't believe, he said it's going to take him 3 months with a paper cutter
Yeah.
to every 2 weeks put his lounge bit by bit into his yellow bin until it's fully gone, So we've all lived that, and I think that's where some of those solutions need to be as part of the service. They should stick around for 10 minutes, help him unbox it, put it back in the truck and go, right? But
yes.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah, it's just because it's rubbish days here today. So I was just thinking a lot of the rubbish is small, like shortened life or high throughput, like high volume products rather than long life, like TVs and lounges and things like that. What you see is the use of your app for like food items and things like you buy like a couple every day, like bottles, plastic bottles, things like that.
Glad you asked. So we have barcode scanning. So if a product is a GTIN, we can scan a barcode and we can create a product profile and use a photo of the ARL, ideally, if they have one. And we did that with kids. We did it with a test to say scanned a barcode, had a tin of paint come up, and then we put paint back as a program, as an education tool. So we can, I know there was a beverage, I can't remember exactly who it was. If the beverage sector wants to work with us, we could put every product on there, scan the barcode, and give a more detailed, nuanced, brand-led, product-led instruction or educational piece around these items. And I don't expect people to load their bottle of Coke or their box of, whatever, but they can learn by scanning the barcode.
Definitely educational purpose is very important because a lot of the products you look at it, you think, oh, this is plastic, or this goes here, this goes, and it's completely wrong. So even if it's not for a long life products, but just educating, it's quite important.
Yeah, we did the barcode because we know packaging changes. We know there's a lot of products with a red cycle on the side of it at the moment. So we did it because it's really hard to change packaging. The barcode will always remain the same. Yeah, I mean, I could talk all day. I'm very conscious of everyone else's time, but yeah, happy to sit here and chat. I'm just, I don't know if Caitlin or Lisa, you wanted to jump in, but yeah, if everyone wants to keep talking, I'll just keep talking all day. So you better shut me up if that's what you need to do.
Well, we're happy to give it a little bit more time if people have some more questions. It's a really terrific platform, Tim, and lots of it's going to be really meaningful and have a lot of impact. So yeah, really exciting. Do we have any more questions? Would you like to keep chatting to Tim? If you give me some show of hands, otherwise we'll wrap up and get back to our days. Oh, hands up, Janet.
Yeah, just was curious. Who's your customer? Like, how can we help? What are you looking for?
Sorry, Ingrid. Sorry, Janet. I missed that. Sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering, who's your customer? Like, is there a way we can help if we know others? In the networks?
Yeah. So I break our customer sort of user audience into 3 buckets, if I can be as blunt as that. Obviously, there's the app users. And I guess from my perspective, the role of Utilitarian is a bit in the entertainment business. We need to entertain and engage, educate them. And we do that in partnership with the 2 others. So that would be brands. They need to take responsibility for their products and use the platform to better manage their products. And we think the early ones will, and the ones will then, see the rest move and have to follow in time. And finally, which is, I think, for the most part, this audience is what I would refer internally to sort of affiliates and the broader ecosystem stakeholders. So it's a mix of charities, NGOs, government. I absolutely am really keen to develop partnerships and help build bigger pilots and scale. And look, we're a startup, so we are looking at investment. We're looking for grants, and we don't fit into any neat grant bucket at the moment. I think for the most part, we're going to need partners who want to use the platform to build initiatives to access grants and to help us scale. So really, it's just a case of having really meaningful discussion and collaboration, understanding the ways that this platform can help your organizations achieve their objectives. And then together we go forward and bring other partners on board.
Cool, thanks.
I guess I had another comment that I was saving, but one of the universities projects. One, I remember this reminded me that it was an app that they wanted to monetize people's habits. Like if I ride a bike or I walk to school, walk to work, and they said, oh, we're going to monetize it through ACCUs. Have you looked at anything like that? Like if you can quantify how much carbon you're avoiding, can you actually sell carbon credits or something like that? And yeah.
So if I follow that bouncing ball, that's where those utilitarian status credits fall in, where if actions are measured on the platform and recorded, and those status credits are a fair reflection of impact and it's verified through the right partners, there is an opportunity to use those. I've stopped short there. Like that's where I stopped my thinking and take a few steps back. Yeah, I guess for me, I'm always really keen to make sure that anything that we claim on the platform is verified. So if someone pans over a pair of shoes, reality is today they could do that and theoretically it says it happened, right? So working with retail partners, to one of the earlier questions, is someone could say they dropped a pair of shoes off in a box. We need to make sure that actually happened. So we need to work with the retail stores where someone hands the shoes over at the counter and someone says, yes, that happened on the platform, and puts them in the box behind them as an example. So that the use, the behavior and activities, we need to make sure that if it's an activity or an action that's being measured and claimed on the platform, where there's a clear start and finish and verification on how we can ensure that did happen. And once we've done that, then yes, in theory, that monetization piece can run from there.
Yeah, and then I was thinking like a one click. I want to sell this on eBay. Can you just straight post to eBay?
Well, yeah. If you want eBay to, get eBay to give me a call. I'm very happy to work with them. Yeah. I'm not looking to build a marketplace because I think there's so many people have their favorites. I want this to integrate with marketplaces exactly the way that you described. Yeah. I know they've got their venture thing out there at the moment.
Well, Tim, we'll distribute this presentation to everyone, and everyone's got your email and your details so they can give you a call. And can you keep us updated, please? And I look forward to hearing how it's going.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the conversation and the questions.
Excellent.
It's very encouraging.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent discussion. Really good. And you can see there's a big need for this. So well done.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the week. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, Caitlin.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. Thanks, Lisa.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining. Bye.